We just drew this guy a moment ago. Maybe this one will go better. I played knight f6 and he played bishop g5. Oh, excuse me. He played the Trapowski against me, knight f6, bishop g5 before. Let's vary it a little bit. And now we're gonna go e6. Have you ever got to a point where 100 games before? Have you got to a point where 100 games before you were blundering a lot, and 100 games after that you're like, kind of stop blundering stuff? Once you kind of get to a decent level at chess, you kind of stop blundering stuff. Aside from really weird blunders like that, that was really weird. That was just like a mutual oversight. Kind of like two monkeys or something like that, just completely missing stuff. I don't know what happened that game. I'm not going to do 10 minutes per game Adpide, just because I want to try to get as many games as possible here. I'm going to try to play a little bit aggressively, maybe. You know, lining up against his king, something like that. A6, going for b5. Now, knight d7. I'm 1900 still blundering stuff? Yeah, it happens at all levels, unfortunately. Let's go 95. Queen to e7. Queen to f8. This looks weird, but I want to play h6 and kick his bishop around without letting him play bishop h6. So h6 myself. And now g5. Let's go for that aggressive route. g5 looks fun. We're going to play knight g6. Knight h5, and then into f4 maybe. We might also play f5 here to attack. Is there any way to make this really interesting? What could I do really, really interesting here? Let's go bishop e5. Actually, we're going to go bishop d7 first. Aronian blundered badly, Hammer blunders. Yeah, if Carlsen blunders versus my blunders, I blunder rooks for nothing. He blunders, you know, you got to actually see something to see what he's blundering. I'd love to play f5, but he just takes it, and then I take back, and he plays g4. You know what? Screw it, we're going for it. If he plays g4, I'll take on f3, and then we're going to have some fun here. Let's go for the aggressive stuff. g4, I take f3. If he doesn't play g4, then I just retreat the queen. We're going to be down a piece, but it looks kind of fun, so that's why we're going for it. So the king side, white's king side is completely open. Knight h4 to f3 is big. Knight e5 to f3 is big. Bishop e5 is pretty big. So what's he going to do? I think bishop e5 immediately is good. Alright, now we're playing knight to... I think knight h4 is okay. Yeah, we're going knight h4. So maybe we're taking the knight and playing rook f8, something like that. I don't really want to exchange queens, but I do have, what do I have here? 4, 6, I got 2 pawns for the piece, which, okay, this knight g4 doesn't seem good at all. I think we're just getting another pawn here at least. Yeah, knight f3 is a big threat right now because of the pin. If you wanted aggressive chess, this is about as aggressive as it gets. Rook f8, I think. Cut the king off a little bit. Next, we might play queen g3, and then queen h2 is going to be very tough to stop. I see high-rated players kind of stop making the dumb blunders. Well, they're high-rated for a reason. 94 is a bit annoying. I wanted to play queen g3. Maybe queen g3 first was better in hindsight. Probably. Oh well. Actually, I can still do knight f3. Yeah. Rook takes f3 is forced, and then I'll play rook takes f3. I'm also now threatening to take the knight. We're up the exchange. We're also threatening to take the bishop, and then bishop d4. Yeah, white's in a lot of trouble here. Knight f2 is probably his only move, but then I still play queen g3, and he's kind of lost. So you guys asked for aggressive chess. This is pretty high up there in the aggression factor. Queen e2 is a reasonable move, but he's still going to end up... We just take e3, right? Just take e3? No, we don't take e3. Ooh, that's super tricky. If I take e3, queen takes, and then bishop to d4, he takes it, I take back, and he has knight f6. Ooh, that'd be really bad. So I think we're just exchanging at this point. King takes, and then rook f8 check. At the end of the day, it's he has 2 pieces against the rook, but I do have a couple pawns. I'm up, let's see, 3, 6. I'm up 3 pawns, and then it's a rook versus 2 pieces. So still an interesting position, for sure. I think we'll just check, see what happens. Just another check. I'm actually not entirely sure what to do here, oddly enough. I'm just going to go king g7. We need to do some moves to get up on the clock a bit. Still a tough position for white, I want to say. Like, this bishop isn't doing much. The knight isn't doing a whole lot. My bishop on e5 is good, but I don't really want to trade it off. I really don't want to have the 2 pieces versus a rook. Unless I know I can push these kingside pawns. But that's, oh, that's just a big blunder. Okay. That's a big one there. Yeah, he just gives up a full piece. Okay, so let's analyze this one. Alright, flip the board. So the opening is the modern Benoni. G6, bishop G7, castles, rook E8, A6, A4, knight D7, knight G3, knight E5, bishop E7. The whole idea of this opening is that white has, white has more space, if I can make highlights correctly. White has more space in the center, but black has pretty good piece play, especially the bishop on G7 is very good. We have 2 nice knights in the center. And I'm going to try to counterattack white's center for the most part. In this version, I decide to go for a piece sacrifice. Not necessary to do. I mean, I could have done knight e5 first and then played f5, which would have avoided giving up a piece. Actually, that still would have lost a piece. Maybe knight f4 first and then... maybe I could have done this and then f5. But I figured you guys wanted some aggression, so we'll go with the piece sacrifice. We get 2 pawns for the piece, and definitely white's king is completely open here. Knight h4 to f3 is a big threat. Bishop g2, bishop e5, threatening to take that. h3, making another attack. Knight g4. This wasn't very good in my opinion. We have 3 pawns for the piece at this point. He played rook f1. In hindsight, queen g3 looks like it probably wins immediately. It's very tough to stop queen h2. And then pretty much anything he does, I get the g2 bishop. Actually, even better here is just bishop g3, which is mate. That's kind of a cool-looking mate. So queen g3 right away would have been much better. I don't think there's any way to deal with queen h2 and then take g2 that I can see. If he goes here, it's the same exact thing. That's completely losing. So queen g3 would have been the best move. Rook f8, and then he plays knight e4. That stops queen g3, which is kind of annoying. But I could have also played rook f3, threatening to take the knight. And if the knight moved, then play queen g3. That would have been pretty fancy looking. So maybe rook f3 is better than knight f3. Because with knight f3, he's definitely giving up the exchange, but I kind of liked my knight involved in the attack. Now it's just 2 pieces against the rook, and it's not the clearest position in the world. After rook f1, I cannot take this bishop and then play bishop d4. This definitely looks good for me, but he takes the bishop and then plays knight f6 check, and I'm just completely busted at this point. So that's definitely a no-no. I traded, played rook f8, played a couple checks, played king g7, kind of just like a waiting move, just seeing what white's going to do from here. And he ends up making the big blunder. I pick up a piece. I feel like it's a fairly, I wouldn't say even, but it's a tricky position to play when you're low on time for white. Also for black. But I do think like it's probably a little easier for black to play, because stuff is, white has to make sure all of his stuff's defended. And we know that all black stuff is defended pretty well. So definitely a fun position here.